This is Gemara and Yoma Daf Nun Gimel of the learning for this month, the month of Sivan, and as is sponsored as a special Schoshidach for Yisrael Chaim and Devaira. The learning of the entire Chabura should be a tremendous chos. They should find the Ziva Kago in Bekarev. Of course, Achaylim Med Vemeg Chaim and Sarah. Shalmasiu Neizei those are Baskanai Deli Tavasim with Chaisei Yisrael Mendel different the Shalei Shamas Nami Vashavig Shulchan from Shmuel ben Tila Tinem and Khan Rizal Chai Basnin Lebracha with the Misa Dinina Ben Shin Mendel Siva Ben Feged Vern Khil Shon Tel Huvan Mifka Bas Shavan after the Ziva Nichel Esther Besay Sharchli Israel 12 Shidach for Atalea Bas Ita. We pick it up in the bottom of Nun Beis Amid Beis. We're middle of the Avodah, the highlight almost of the entire Yom Kippur. We're inside the Kodesh HaKodashim and we're about to perform the Avodah Kasha, one of the hardest Avodas, like we've seen, the taking of the Ketores. We already put them, we already did the Chafina with two hands, we put them into the spoon, we walked into the Kodesh HaKodashim with the spoon in the left, the Machta on the right. Now we put the Machta down on the floor, and now we put the kaf, the spoon, and we either put it under the arm of the Kohen Gadol or we put it in the mouth, and we spilled it back into his hands, and now the Kohen Gadol is sitting there. He has the Keteris, his two full handfuls. He has the coals burning in the floor. He is opposite the Aron HaKodesh, the Broich has been abadim, and now he's about to drop the Keteris onto the coals. Says the Gemara, Sabras, the Keteris al-Gabi Gachalim, Nun Beis and Beis, 6 lines to the bottom, he places and he heaps the Keteris on top of the coals. Tanan Kiman Damar Saivra. We learn like the Man Damar says Saivra, which means he piles it up. Tani Chad, we learned that one Mishnah Saivra Pinima She Chutzala. Betani Idach Saivra Chutza She Pinimala. So we have a machlaikas, and this is easily explained via a beautiful picture courtesy of Kol Alashim. When you see over here, this is going to be called Penima, which is chutzala. You see the Kohen Gadol is going to the coals the furthest from him. He's leaning out. Whereas in this picture you see he's going to the coals that are closest to him. The coals that are closest to him are the chutz, are the furthest from the Aron HaKodesh, or like we see here in the second base on Mikdash from the Makim of the Aron. Whereas that which is Penima is furthest from him. So the Shaila is these are furthest from him and come closer. These are closest to him and go further. Says the Gemara, we have two different missions. Amar Abaye Tanoi, so Achlogis Tanoim. Amar Abaye Mistaver Command Amar Pinima Shichutala. It makes more sense as Abaya, which is closest to the Aron HaKodesh, which is the furthest from him. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah of Lamdanei Sai, they teach him he's Zahir. Be careful as we turn over to today's Daf Nun Gimel Amar Aleph. Shaloi taschil mipanecha shemetichaveh. Do not begin right in front of yourself because you might burn yourself. Now this Mishnah is by the regular ketayers. The regular ketayers they burnt on the Mizbeach Hazav, on the golden Mizbeach. But over there as well, they told him don't burn it right in front of you. Start further away because you start right in front of you, it's going to shoot out. Start shooting flames up in your face, the smoke. Rather start a bit further from you. So says the Gemara, not like this picture where it's so close, but rather a bit further away from the Kohen Gadol. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanu, we learned in a brayso of Nasan, as a Keteres al Eish L'nei Hashem, and they placed the Keteres on a fire in front of Hashem. What do we learn out from this pasuk? He should not prepare and put the Keteris on the coals outside the Kodesh HaKodashim and then enter him. Why not? To counter the hearts of the Sadukim, which say they learn the Torah literally, of course. They don't learn D'Rabbanans, and they learn that you should put the Keteris outside and then enter the Kodesh HaKodashim. And now the Gemara very interestingly asks, my drush, what was the drasha of the Tzedukim? Not what's the drasha. We didn't say our drasha. You have to do it inside. What did the Tzedukim learn? Says the Gemara, you know the Tzedukim learned, with the cloud. You should approach, you should appear in front of the Kapayras Melamed. You should do it outside and then enter, so you enter in with the cloud. The Chachamim said to them, So Chazal responds to the Dukim, what do you mean? It says Lifnei, you do it in front of Hashem. What's the reason that it says So what is the correct drasha to do with the fact that the Torah says seemingly you should appear within a cloud? Melami, that teaches us that you put in it the ingredient in the Ma'ale Ashan, which makes it go directly up. The cloud should cover over the kapayres. If you're missing an ingredient, you're missing any one of the ingredients of the ketayres, chayiv misa. You're chayiv misa. Before we continue, let's just point out it's a very interesting and unique marmakaim. This is where we learn out one of the reasons why many people do not say the Pigat to Makteris every single day, because they're afraid in Chiser, Chasar, Mikol Samana, you forget one ingredient, Chayim Misa. Of course, the meaning Yerushalayim is to say it at the end of the happening, but one has to be careful to say every single one of the 11 ingredients, and furthermore, it's also where the minhag comes to say it from a klaf, because that is where it's as if you're actually performing the Avodah. Says the Gemara V'Teibeklei, I don't understand, why don't we learn from the fact that what? To come will be a reikanis. You just told me if you go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim and you're missing the Ma'ale Ashan, you're missing an ingredient, you're Chayim Misa. Says more 1 second. You know you should be Chayim Misa because you went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim for no purpose. What do you mean for no purpose? You went into the Ketores. That's true, but did you do the Ketores? No. Why not? You didn't do the Ketores because you didn't have all the ingredients. So the sum total of your actions was nothing. You went in for no reason. So says the Gemara, maybe that's the reason why you should be Chayim Misa, because you went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim for no reason. We're going to have a bunch of truths now. Teres, number 1 says, Rav Sheshes, you know why? Excuse me, the Allah is only Chayim Misa for amazing. So this halacha is, the guy wasn't thinking, he wasn't cognizant when he walked in. So he was a shaygig on the walking in, lacking an ingredient. But he was amazed that he burnt it on purpose, therefore he's chayim misa for the burning. Rav Ashi Amar, a second teres, avilu teime ezid bezu bezu, both of them were with kavana, with intention, going to ayil shteika toires. Achas shlema v'achas chser, he brought in 2 ketayres, one was complete, and one was not. So abiyah loy mechayev, he's not mechayev for going in for no reason, the ayil shlema, because he went in for a good reason, he had a full kedayres. Akdara michayev to come mikdar kedayres chasera, because he burned the deficient, a lacking kedayres. We'll just mention, how did he do this? How did he go with 2 kedayres? Only has 2 hands. How was he able to physically carry in 2 sets of kedayres? We'll leave it at that. Omar Mar says the Gemara, going into the previous din that we said, how do you know you put in the ingredient called Ma'ale Ashan? Tamalemer says in the Torah v'chisa, you cover with it. Kra likra, says the Gemara, we need one pasuk for another pasuk. We already said that we learned it out from the previous pasuk. So why do we need 2 kibanan kabayres? Why do we need 2 different psukim teaching me the same halacha? Amar Rav Yosef Achi Kamar, Einli ela alei Ma'ale Ashan, the alei, the leaves of the Ma'ale Ashan. Iker Ma'ale Ashan minayin. How do we know? If you could use the root of this ingredient Ma'ale Ashan, tamlemer v'chisa. That's what the extra Joshua does. Says the Gemara 1 second. We learned the exact opposite. If you put in the root of this Ma'ale Ashan, it would go straight up like a stick. Says the Gemara, like a stick ad. First white line. Till it reaches the ceiling. And then what happened? When it would reach the ceiling, then Mishamish Jared Biksalim would go down the walls of Kodesh HaKadoshim till the entire Beis HaMikdash was filled with smoke. Shenemar, the pasuk says, maybe Yimale Ashan, and he should bring it, it's going to fill with smoke. So says the Gemara 1 second, the root of the Ma'ale Ashan is even greater, even better than the leaves. So why would you need a special drasha for that? And we'll see a beautiful picture of the depiction of the smoke smoke in a moment. The exact opposite. We only know if you use the root. How do we know you can use the leaves of this plant? That's what we need the v'chisa for. Let's just finish up the few terutzim and then we'll go back. Rav Sheishes Amar Inli Eloil Moed Shabim Midbar Shiloi Beis Elamim Minayin. How do we know that as well? They did this both in the Mishkan Shiloi and as well in the Beis HaMikdash forever. There's also a din that you need the Malei Oshan, the Amalei Mar V'chisa, that you need the pasuk of V'chisa. Says the Gemara, 1 second, we've already learned this. There's a special drasha equating the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan Shiloi, with the original Mishkan. Elochi Kamar Eli El B'Yom Kippurim Yishayim V'Zashanim Yinayin Tamalei Mar V'chisa. They always need to use this ingredient called Mala Ashan. Rav Ashi Amar Chal Mitzvah Chal Akev. 2 psukim. One is teaches that it's the Akev, and finally Rav Amar Chal Loinesh V'Chad La'azara. One is giving us a warning. Says the Gemara, before we go into Tanya, let's just see a beautiful picture. Again, this was what we concluded that it should be further away from you, and now you see as the Kohen Gadol puts it down, there's the smoke that goes directly up, goes to the ceiling, and it comes down the walls. What a beautiful depiction. You see it as well over here. Here's where the Kohen Gadol already is starting to sprinkle the blood, which we're going to get to in one moment. Tanya, we learned in a Braisa, Rav Eliezer, Aimer V'lo Yamus, it says in the Gemara that the smoke is going to be there, that it should not die. What does this teach us? Einesh, that's the punishment for if you don't have the Mala Ashan. When the pasuk says that it should appear in a cloud, Azhara, that is the warning that you have to use the Mala Ashan. Now the Gemara explains. This pasuk about Mala Ashan was where? Was by this death of the 2 sons of Aaron, that they brought an Ish Zara, foreign fire in front of God. Amaleimar, Acharei Mosh, Nebnei Aaron, Yochliu Shnei Amurim. Maybe both Sigim are afterwards. Keep on that which will be seen on the Kapairis. Okay, it says the Gemara. The warning was before. After my Talmuda says the Gemara. How do we know this is the way to learn it? Amarava, Amarkra, keep on an Eira. But I and Hashem was not there yet. So then why were they punished? If not even Aviyah didn't know that this warning, so why were they punished? Says the Gemara, is so important. You know why they were Chayim Misa? Not for the Izara, but rather because they were married Allah in front of Moshe the Rebbe, which of course carries with it the death penalty. My Derosh, what did they? Darshan says the Gemara, they learned on their own. They felt that there's still a separate mitzvah to bring a fire. That was a drasha which they learned not by asking Moshe Rabbeinu, but rather being married halacha b'fnei rabbi. If you want to see the bottom thesis over here, quotes a bunch of other reasons why as well they were chayim misa. But says the Gemara, that is why they died when they brought that carbon. Now we get back to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Kohen Gadol put down the Ma'ala Ashan, Kohen Gadol put down the Keteris. We have this beautiful fire, and what happens? Now he's going to walk outside. Yotzo Baladerech Knisasa. He backs out the way that he came in. We have the 2 dots, about 12 lines on the bottom, and then Gimel Amid Aleph. Says the Gemara, Minani Mili. Where do we know that he walks backwards outside of the Kodesh HaKadoshim? Amar Rav Shmuel, Amar Nachmani, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Krat, says in the Torah, Vayavai Shloimeh. And Shlomo HaMelech came la'abama she'ever given Yerushalayim to the bama to the mizbeach that was in given Yerushalayim. V'chima'inin givon etzel Yerushalayim. What does that mean? Givon Yerushalayim. There are 2 different places. Elamakish itziasay mi givon li Yerushalayim li biyasay mi Yerushalayim the givon. We equate the 2 areas. Ma biyasay mi Yerushalayim the givon, just like when he went from Yerushalayim to Gibeon panav klabe bama. He was walking in, so his face was facing towards the mizbeach kederech biyasay. Af yitziasay. When he was leaving, you should face the Mizbeach and walk out backwards. The same way he walked in. And similarly, says the Gemara, the Kehanim, when they do their Avodah Levim Duchanan, they as well back out when they are done. You don't turn around and walk out. That's disrespectful. You don't show your back to God's Aron HaKodesh to the shul, to the Beis HaMikdash. Allah, you back out. A Talmud leaves his rabbi, he backs out. Don't turn around. Rav Lazar was leaving. Rav Yochanan, Rav Yochanan and Rav Yochanan wanted to go. Have Rav Lazar Rav Lazar would bow, stay in his place. So Rav Yochanan was fully covered, meaning fully removed and left from him. When he wanted to leave, the Rav Yochanan was fully left by him. Rava says the Gemara, interesting story about Rava. Rava Mifter Minid Rav Yisrael and Rav will leave Rav Yisrael he would back out. Says the Gemara, until the Nachman Kari, his legs were bruised, he would bump into things, he wasn't looking, he was walking backwards. And the threshold of the Ve'ir of Yosef Dama would be filled with blood, the blood of his legs, from him backing out without looking where he's going. And this is, of course, halacha that whenever you leave shul, we all know whenever you leave the kaisel, you don't just turn around, rather you back out to show the appropriate kavod to Hashem as you're leaving his house. As we turn over to the Gimel and Beis, Rav Yosef Aichi Avid Rava. Says the Gemara, this is what Rava did. Rava, he should get a reward that what Hashem should be, make him into the leader over the entire karcha, the entire city. More halachas is about leaving the Shechina. When you daven, we all know this halachas, you take 3 steps backwards, then you give shalom to Hashem. Once you take your 3 steps, that is where you should stay. You know, this is similar to Mashla Talmud and if the Mirabi, when the Talmud leaves the Rabbi in Chayzel Alter, the Kelef Sheshav El Keyoi. When you leave, if you turn around right away and you run away, you're like a dog that's eating your own vomit, quite a disrespectful act. Rather, you back up and you wait in your place for a few moments. Says the Gemara, Arayo, where the second medium-sized line, you take 3 steps, then you say shalom. What strong words. If you don't do that, it's better you didn't daven. You know why? Because if you don't show the proper honor, it means you don't even know you're talking to God at all. Give shalom the yamin, l'smal, then to your left. The right is stronger. There's more, there's Ravava to the right. Why do you need a second? Maybe just telling you the proper ways, that's why we need the separate pasuk. Says the Gemara, therefore, Tashema Yibo Mizilcha Elef Uravava Miminecha, teach me that no, it's not just proper. This is the halacha that you have to make sure you first go right, then you go left. But right and left, says the Gemara, Rava Chazi Labayid Yav Shalmei Liyamin Ebereshe. He first turned right and then he turned left. Says the Gemara, Malay Misaras Limindi Dach. L'smal didach, you got to go to your left, which is Kamina, which is in front of the right of Hashem. That Yamina Shal Kadosh Baruch Hu. Amar Rav Chia Brei Ravuna Chazinu Abaye v'Rav Debasli Shal Psias V'Kari Achas. They would take the 3 steps back, all with one bow, all while being bowed down. Take the 3 steps back, then you go left, right, front. Or you say Shalom B'Rayim V'Yatz Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Amen. The fabulous makar of the 3 steps we take back after every Shemona Esrei. We learned over here in Gimel and base. Well, you see how important it is. It's again, it's similar to walking out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim on the holiest day of the year. We said the Kohen Gadol and davens a short tefillah as he walks out. Says the Gemara, my Matzi, what does he daven? Rabba Ravada, Ravim Bar Ravada, Tarveh Mishmei Rav Amri. This year should be Shchuna, Geshuma, Ushchuna. It should be Kishuma, a lot of rain, Ushchuna, and it should be very hot. Shchuna mal yasi. Is it good for it to be so hot? Ella ima says Gemara, im shchuna te'eg Kishuma. If it's going to be very hot, then we need a lot of rain to counteract the heat. Rav Masayim ba Mishmei Rav Yehuda loyadi oven sholtin. So Rav Ada he concluded his tefillah by saying loyadi oven sholtan. B'tebeis Yehuda. One who has the leadership should not pass in the house of Yehuda. Yisrael and Klal Yisrael should not have to support each other, and we should have enough money. And don't listen to the tefillah of those traveling, because they're going to always daven for there not to be rain, but we need rain. Rav Chanina ben Daisav Gazel Baruch is going the road. Shad the Mitra Alei started raining. Amar Chanina ben Daisav said, "Rabbeinu Shalaylam, Kol Olam Kula Benachas V'Chanina B'Tzar." Everyone's happy. They're home. It's raining. But I, Rav Chanina, I'm sitting here getting drenched. Pasuk Mitra stopped raining. Kasla Beisi when he came home. Amar Rabbeinu Shalaylam Kol Olam Kula B'Tzar V'Chanina Benachas. Asra Mitra, it started raining. We see how great was the tefillah and honor in relation to tefillah Chanim and Daisa than Rabbanan. We said he's supposed to say a short tefillah, but he didn't listen. He said a long tefillah. And they said, where's the Kohen Gadol? They went in to go find him. His chilo and Nisan. They started going in, and then he left. Then they said, Kohen Gadol, what are you doing? We got so nervous. It's bad that I should daven for you. It shouldn't be destroyed. Don't do that. You don't want Klal Yisrael to become nervous and anxious. And that was the short tefillah that the Kohen Gadol said. How careful they had to be. Just to point out one detail we see from the story, it says that they had to go to get him. What happened to the string tied around the Kohen Gadol's leg? Why did they just yank him out? Maybe this was Bayis Rishon, maybe one of the rayas that they didn't have a string in the Bayis Rishon. We'll leave it at that. Says the Mishnah and Gimel and Beis, Mishanitel Aroin. After the Aron was removed in history, there's no more Aron. Kodesh Evan Sham, there was a rock there. Mimais Neviim Arishainim. For the days of the earlier Neviim, Ushtiyas and Nikras, and it was called Shtiyah. Kavayim and Arish Shal Shatzbais, who's 3 Atzbais off the ground, Valea and Noisein, and on that they would place Natalas Adam, Mimishu, Memaris, Shal Shatzbais, Valea and Noisein. On it they would place, now we go back to the Avaida. The Kohen Gadol, let's remember there's a Kohen standing outside stirring the blood for the last 15 blood. So Natalas Adam, they went back, he took that blood, Mimishu, Memaris, for one that was stirring it, so it didn't congeal, Nichlas, the Makim Shenichlas, he went into the place that he came from, Vamad Makim Shamad, and he stood over there, and he started sprinkling achas lamayla v'shevel lamata, 1 above and 7 below. He didn't have a direct direction, elikimatzav, like a width that each one went a little bit further down. V'karcha yamayni, you account achas in order to ensure that he did 1 and then 7. Yotza, he went out v'nichal kan hazav shebeichel, and he placed the blood on a stand, a golden stand that was there in the eichel. If you look at Sayer, now they brought in the second animal, is the ear Hashem. Shachatu, he shechs of a kibble, he catches the blood, b'mizak in the bolus, tamai, nichlas, lamakish nichlas, then he goes back in. This is the 3rd time he's going to Kiddush HaKadoshim. Time number 1 was Ketores, time number 2 was the dam of the par, time number 3 is with the blood of the seir. He goes into the Kiddush HaKadoshim, ba'amar b'makim sha'amar v'yizim menuachs, lamayla, v'shevel amata, and again he sprinkles 1 above and 7 below, v'kacha yemene, we count achas v'shayim v'chulu. Then Yatsi, he went out, v'nichal kan hazav, then he put that blood on the golden stand. Hasheni shebeichel Rav Yehuda Merna lo yasham ella kanechel. There's only 1 stand bilvan. Natal dam apar v'nich dam asar. They would take 1 and put the other 1 down. V'hizir mena paraychas. Then once he's outside, they sprinkled with it on the paraychas. Shekneged arayin. Mibachos achs l'mayla v'shav l'matav lo miskavein. He didn't have direct direction. Just above and below. V'chulu natal dam asar v'nich dam apar. He took the sayer and he put back the par. V'hizir mena, and then he sprinkled that one al paraychas. Shekneged arayin mibachos. Achas l'mayla v'shav l'matav. Ira dam apar l'toch dam asayir. V'nasan as amali breaking, and they mix the 2 of them together. So let's see some pictures. Here you see the Kohen Gadol inside holding the blood, and he's starting to sprinkle. As you see in this picture, it's kematzav, like a whip. You see just each one getting a little bit lower. In the next picture over here, you see how he's coming out. He puts it down on the golden stand. And here's where he's taking and putting down the second one on the stand. Finally, what's he doing? He's sprinkling. So again, he did the ketores inside. He sprinkled inside the par. He sprinkled inside the sa'ir. Then he comes outside and he sprinkles on the proichas outside both the sa'ir and the par. He mixes the 2 bloods together. And then he goes outside, and we're going to pick up from here tomorrow.